Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live powered by Ollipop.
What do you think? You think we'll be able to hear this one? We're going to give it a shot. We'll see what happens. Did you hear it?
I heard it before you were talking. You could hear it.
Dang it.
Yeah.
One of these days we'll get to the bottom of it. That was a good can crack right there.
Yeah, well, all right. It's powered by Ollipop. And Ollipop, obviously, you can find it at your local Walmart, your local Whole Foods, your local Sprouts, and your local Target. If you're in Oklahoma, if you're in Texas, I'm sure you can find it at other places like Marketplace and stuff like that.
As many have pointed out on social media, yes, Ollipop is going to run you a little bit more than your typical soda. But, folks, there is no better investment you can make than an investment into your body. Typical soda, it's not going to do good things to your body. Ollipop has no added sugars, is sweetened with only fruit juices and extracts, and comes with 9 grams of dietary fiber and prebiotics to enhance digestive health. It tastes just like a soda, but you're getting health benefits from it, which is why, it'll run you about $2 a can. That's a worthwhile investment all the way. And you can take 20% off if you go to drinkollipop.com and use the promo code CHAMPU20.
Yeah. Awesome. Oklahoma won 73-0 this past
that was
week.
impressive.
Yeah. I mean, all things considered, yes, impressive. I don't really know, what there is to talk about extensively today because that game was so bad. It was hard to Parker. It was hard to watch. If you're an OU fan or as a member of the OU media, it was difficult to watch. That being said, there are a lot of things that happened in that game that I look back at now and I'm like, okay, well, last year, just off of talking last year, there was a lot of second half pullaways, right? Even against teams that were of similar ilk as Arkansas State. They did not close that game out or any of those games out up front. Business was not taken care of. Today, it looked like business was taken care of, or Saturday, it looked like, business was taken care of. And everybody that we talked to inside the program has been saying, look, this team's different. The mindset. And then you get Andrew Rame out there, and that's all he talked about was dominating mindset. And he said it over and over and over. But again, it was Arkansas State. How much can we glean from that? And how much can we glean from SMU if Oklahoma is to dominate this weekend as well?
If they dominate SMU, it's a different story. I'm very much of the opinion that as far as the talent level of this team, we expect it to be better. We have reason to believe it's going to be better than it was a year ago. But empirically, objectively, we don't know that much more about Oklahoma's level of talent, level of overall ability as a football team than we did before that Arkansas State game. I think a conclusion we can draw, Brandon, is that this seems like a team with a different mentality than they had a year ago. And that's something, that's a sentiment that has been echoed by a variety of players. We talked to Jaron Kanak last week, and he said, yeah, look, we were all, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, we were all, because of our lack of familiarity with the system, we were just figuring things out. We were kind of playing on our heels, trying not to make a mistake. And you didn't really sense that with Arkansas State on Saturday. Every single time Oklahoma took the field, whether offensively or defensively, but especially defensively, man, they were flying to the ball. They were relentless.
Mm-hmm.
They were fearless. I thought Gentry Williams sticking the Red Wolves running back for a 6-yard loss on a swing pass was the play that really encapsulated that mentality to me and that shift, because that's not a play that we've seen an Oklahoma defensive back make, no matter the opponent, in a long, long time. So that
No
to
doubt.
me was a microcosm of the transformed mentality that this defense already seems to have through just one game. Now, granted, it may not be that drastic of a shift. It may just be incremental improvement. We're going to need to see them play some teams with a pulse before we actually get a sense of what's real and what's not. SMU is going to present a greater challenge. How much of a greater challenge? I'm not really sure we know. That program undeniably has athletes on both sides of the ball, especially at the offensive skill positions. So it will be more of a task to overcome that team than it was to put away Arkansas State last week. But I think it's okay to be encouraged. It's okay to be impressed with the way that Oklahoma played on Saturday. Even if you're not crowning them the front runners for the Big 12 title yet, it's okay to acknowledge, even though it was an inferior opponent, that 73-0 win was an impressive one.
It was. Look, I just refuse to. I want to give OU their flowers, obviously, but I refuse to go all in. I feel like last year, because of the Nebraska game and Oklahoma peaking 3 games into the season, that there's going to be a large contingent of OU media and Oklahoma fans, myself included, that is going to be very, how should I put it, reserve in our, not so much expectations, but in our willingness to let the guard down and be like, okay, they're a really good football team. And I don't think anybody can blame those of us that are going to do that. I do agree with you that the SMU game is going to be a test, more so for the defense than the offense, one would think. But at the same time, night game, Norman, Oklahoma, the fans have had all day to lose their inhibitions, if you will.
Imbibe.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully they'll show up to Lindsay Street this week. No offense. But it should be a rowdy atmosphere. It should be loud. It should be, and SMU, they haven't been great since the 80s. They've been good. They haven't been great, but they've been pretty decent over the last decade, to where you have to at least acknowledge the fact that they're coming to town. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is decidedly an upper tier group of 5 program in
Right.
SMU, and one that, as several coaches and players have pointed out already this week, is loaded with higher end P5 talent via the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Think about a lot of guys that Oklahoma fans ought to have some familiarity with: Kamar Wheaton, LJ Johnson, Jalen Knighton, Preston Stone, Jordan Hudson. So, yeah, there's talent, especially at the skill positions on that SMU offense.
If you're a recruit, Nick, you should definitely understand and remember the names Jalen Knighton and Kamar Wheaton.
Trust me, I'm fairly certain anybody that's been following OU recruiting for longer than a couple of years remembers Kamar Wheaton's name, because that was the original bizarro recruitment. Actually, OU got burned twice in the span of 2 weeks that cycle by bizarro recruitments in
Tristan Lee.
Yeah, Kamar Wheaton and Tristan Lee. That was quite a time. But that aside, we have a couple super chats. Let's get to them.
Okay.
Kaysen said, Send help in Fayetteville for work, and these weirdos popped out of the trees and started yelling "Woo pig suey" over and over. Terrifying stuff. Prayers to you, Kaysen. Hope you make it through. Graham Dunbar dropped $2 because he says he lost a bet on the card again. Meanwhile, Jacob Matthews just dropped $5 and said, "What do you have to see to be fully sold on OU this week, or do we just have to wait for a more notable game to see how we are?" And my answer to that, Jacob, would be, I don't know that even if the score were 100-0 in favor of OU this weekend, I'm not still sure I would be fully sold on Oklahoma, because week one lies a lot. You get some wacky results in week one. I don't think Clemson is nearly as bad as they showed in that loss to Duke. I think Baylor beats Texas State 9 times out of 10 when those two programs play. And I would say the same about Texas Tech and Wyoming, but so many programs are working out early season kinks that you'll get a few of those in non-conference play. You'll get a few surprising results. And as a general rule, I try to reserve judgment, and this is based on experience. I try to reserve judgment on a team's status as a playoff contender. I think you can get a sense of whether a team's going to be a conference championship contender. But if we're talking about a true national contender, I don't know that we will get a strong sense of whether Oklahoma is on that level or near that level until they play Texas. Because if we've said it once, we've said it 1,000 times. This schedule is such that Oklahoma should be 5-0 going into the Cotton Bowl. There's really no excuse for them not to be 5-0 going into the Cotton Bowl.
Right. Okay. So I agree with you. First off. But look, before I give my answer, I have to give my flowers to Jason Patton, who once again dropped a hundy on us. Thank you, Jason. He says, Boomer 5210 is my score prediction for Saturday. God bless, gentlemen. No, God bless you, Jason, Mr. Jason Patton. We really do appreciate you. Thank you so much for your continuous support of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. So on what I would have to see from Oklahoma, again, I'm with you. The Clemson thing is what threw me off a little bit. You really believe Clemson's better than 8-4 this year?
Well, record-wise, I don't know. I think the jury is very much still out on Clemson. But I think what is undeniable is that, again, if you play that game 10 times over, Clemson doesn't lose 28-7 again, because it's not as if they were ineffective. It's not as if they struggled to move the ball. Could they have been better offensively? Sure. Could they have been better defensively? Sure. But where that game was won and lost was the turnover margin. And Clemson committing several, I don't even know what the word is, but they committed several turnovers in Duke territory, most notably those 2 fumbles inside the 10-yard line. And that's just not the type of thing that's going to happen every week, right?
Yeah.
If it had been a case of the Duke defense totally powering down the Clemson offense all night, then maybe, I'm a little bit more alarmed by what happened. But as it stands with Clemson, I just look at what happened on Monday night as a bunch of stupid mistakes that can very easily be fixed, and also just a stroke of bad luck to a certain extent. So an imperfect storm for Clemson in Durham, North Carolina on Monday night. Do I think they're a playoff team? No, not after that loss, because it's not a cakewalk, but it's not a gauntlet, but it's also not a cakewalk the rest of the way. And Florida State looks like the team that's going to run the ACC.
Oh,
if we're just, and I think that's a fair conclusion to draw after week one, because they went up against a program that we know is an upper echelon Power 5 school in LSU, and they hammered them.
Okay, so before I get to Mongo, I really appreciate the $10, and we will get to your over/under question and the shout out to one Emmett Jones. The Clemson thing is weird, dude, because yeah, the offense did make mistakes, but they also punted quite a bit. So I mean, like, I don't know, man. I think it. I'm I'm really trying to like grab how I that game, like you said, it's hard to process because of everything that happened. But that being Garrett Riley's offense shocked me, and it did not look like Garrett Riley's offense. They are no better than an 8-4 team as long as Dabo Swinney is running that offense and has his hands on it. I'm going to say that 100%. He needs to step away and let Garrett Riley be Garrett Riley. Period. I do have a question. What if Jeff Lebby leaves? And I want you all to answer this honestly, OU fans. You already know what I'm going to say because we talked about this on the phone. You and I both think it's going to be a resounding no. Okay. So before that, Parker and I both agree resounding almost hell no on this. But I do want to ask this, and I'll ask it after we do this. Parker, I sent you a sound effect. Gentlemen, over under 65.5 points scored this week.
Ooh,
I'm going to take
over.
Oh yeah, I'm going to take
Over.
the over.
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm going to take the over. Yeah, definitely over. Okay. So before we get to the other super chat by Jacob Matthews. Oh no, we already read that one. Okay. So before we go on, does anybody everybody said hell no. It's a hell no. I don't have to say it. Would you all, if Jeff Lebby left, would you all take a Garrett Riley as your OC?
Brandon, the fans would not let that happen.
No, before I can even get the question out, hell no, hell no, hell no, hell no. Okay, so you guys are in the same agreement as Parker and I on
Brandon,
that.
there would be a public demonstration down Lindsay Street. There would be a
crickets in Norman, man. They show up to play and everybody's like, there's nobody
Yeah.
in the stands. The fans are pissed. All right. Hey, I just think it's a funny scenario that I had to ask.
Hey, while we're mid show here, which is generally when we have the most folks watching, I think we do need to mention that we have an announcement, for lack of a better word. We have an announcement coming as it pertains to a new piece of content at OUinsider.com, a new content offering, as it were. So stay tuned for that. We will have additional details in the morning, but if you love OUinsider.com, you love perpetual Sooner football and recruiting talk, guess what? We got more stuff coming at you.
Yeah.
More stuff coming at you. More stuff coming at you. It'll be that way all fall, but we're very excited to launch a new, I don't want to give away too much, a new content offering tomorrow. So stay tuned.
Yep. All right. So what are your three biggest things you're looking to see from Oklahoma this weekend? And then after that, we're going to do our predictions, and then we're going to get into recruiting, which everybody loves to talk about. Recruiting. So
yeah. I think the three biggest things for me, one would be you got to look as effective on offense. And I'm not saying you have to score on every possession, but you have to look as effective on offense as you did last week. And what that means is you're moving the ball steadily down the field against a defense that, from a talent perspective, is not up to par with the offense that you're going to trot out there. So you have to leave no doubt over the course of that football game that when faced with an inferior defense from a talent perspective, you can move the ball at will, because you're going to have to move the ball effectively later on in the season when you do face teams that have capable defenses. So especially in non-conference play, we need to see Oklahoma moving the ball at will, not committing turnovers, not getting bogged down, establishing the tempo and the pace of the game. And that starts with Dylan Gabriel. And he did a tremendous job last week against Arkansas State. I would like to see him follow that performance up as the trigger man in the Jeff Lebby offense with another strong performance against SMU. Now, the second thing for me, you're going to have to get pressure on the quarterback. And not only are you going to have to get pressure on the quarterback, but you're going to have to contain the quarterback too, because Preston Stone can move a little bit. And last week, obviously, you can beat Arkansas State without getting much pressure on the quarterback because they're overwhelmed, overmatched from an athletic standpoint. Against SMU, and yes, Oklahoma is a more talented team than SMU on paper, but one of the great equalizers in recent years for Oklahoma and its opponents has been a mobile quarterback on the opposing sideline. That is something that the Sooners have persistently struggled to deal with, struggled to match wits with. So Preston Stone is going to he's going to challenge the Oklahoma front seven a lot more than JT Shrout did last week. So how well can you contain him, keep him from getting outside the pocket and hurting you? And how effectively can you get the push up front, win the battle in the trenches, and constrict his timeline to get the ball out when he drops back to pass? That's the second thing I got to see. And then I would say the third thing is we got to see, and I'm going to call out an individual here. I think we got to see Woody Washington hold his own for 60 minutes against Jordan Hudson, because Jordan Hudson is one of the more talented receivers that Oklahoma will go up against all year. And another thing that Oklahoma has struggled to do in the past is defend the opponent's best receiver. I think of Quentin Johnston a couple years back. Oklahoma won that game in Norman, but Quentin Johnston went for over 200 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. You're going to face some good receivers down the stretch in the Big 12. You're going to face a Xavier Worthy and a Talon Shetron and the like. And you're going to need to have a lockdown cornerback that is capable of matching up with that caliber of wide receiver. And Woody Washington has been banged up the last couple of years. Obviously, last season he was bouncing around, playing a little bit safety because Oklahoma was so thin in the secondary. So I don't know whether we really have a gauge on how good Woody Washington can be as a fifth-year senior. We saw how good he could be as a redshirt freshman back in 2020. And when he was fully healthy, he was one of the better cover corners in the Big 12. So we gotta learn something about Woody Washington in 2023. And I think that starts this weekend, where he will more than likely be tasked with going up against Jordan Hudson.
Yeah. So for me, I think number one is, Arkansas State, they max protected. They had 6, 7, sometimes 8 guys blocking the Sooners defensive line, essentially double teaming anybody and everybody that came through. At most, Oklahoma brought 5. They did not blitz that much. They did not do stunts. They were super vanilla as far as their pass rush goes, to the point I talked to somebody on the field that would know after the game, and I asked him, I said, so was that by plan? They said, yeah, there was no use bringing out and showing some of our pass rush or stunts or any of the blitz packages that needed to be, that maybe they could have worked on, but they've done enough of it in practice that they felt like there was no use of allowing another offense to be prepared for it when they can surprise them, essentially, probably starting this week, because I do not expect SMU to have. Now, I do think they may hold 6 in to block just in case, and maybe change some things up, or move a tight end over, or slide a running back, or crack back, or line up a slot a little bit closer in so that they can come in and blindside. I know an illegal, but at least, slow down the pass rush, whatever. They're going to do some things to try to stop Oklahoma in their pass rush, and Oklahoma should have our Mason Thomas back this week. And I think that's going to be huge. This is crazy when you hear it out loud, and even when I say it, but I spoke to somebody that's around the program every day, particularly the defense, and they said our Mason Thomas might be the best defensive player on the team, particularly the most important. because of his ability to rush off the edge. Now, this person doesn't deal in hyperbole, so I'm a believer when I see it type deal, but we have seen R. Mason do some things. He's got a really quick first step. He's put on a lot of weight, I think 30 pounds in the last year. He's up to almost, 245-ish or so. So he's gained some weight. I think that pass rush, R. Mason Thomas, if he's available to go 100%, is huge for Oklahoma. That's number one for me. They've got to get to Preston Stone. They've got to knock him off. A lot of off-platform throws, make him super uncomfortable, do a lot of things to disguise some coverages and essentially allow the defensive line sometimes when they are having trouble getting off the blocks within that 2.73 second time frame that they like to go by. Sometimes the secondary's got to hold their end of the bargain too. So I think that is the pass defense, 100% pass rush. Huge this weekend. Number two is Austin Stogner. At some point this season, you've got to start using the intermediate over the middle passing. You've got to start making those safeties account for things over the middle and not just focus on exterior outside passing. They have to. And this would be a great time to do it. I know they tried to dial up some things for Austin Stogner on Saturday, and whether it was blocking, whether it was just the shift in coverage, the way that Arkansas State did things, there was several variables that stopped that. But OU's got to adapt. Levy's got to adapt, and they've got to find a way to get 81 some targets. He is going to be key and crucial for Oklahoma moving forward. If they want to keep any sort of deep threat and keep the safeties occupied and at least have them, if you want to use Stogner as a decoy route, the only way to do that is to get him some passes over the middle and make him a viable weapon. Has not been done this year. Obviously, it's only one game. Let's see how that goes. But I was told that he graded out at almost a perfect at run blocking. They said his run blocking between now and when he was originally here at Oklahoma back in 2021 is night and day different. So kudos to him. That's going to be big for him as well as far as the NFL draft goes. And number three, totally agree with you. Secondary. Whether it's Billy Bowman, whether it's how they line up Hudson in the slot, whatever they do to get him the ball in whatever package they bring out, whatever formation, he's got to be seen and known where he's at all times. And I mean, if they have to bracket him, they have to bracket him. It doesn't matter what you have to do. You need to make sure that Preston Stone does not have his best receiver open, even the slightest at any point during the game. And obviously to do that, you've got to have guys like Woody Washington play well, Gentry Williams to play well, and even a Billy Bowman and Peyton Bowen when they're put on him, and a Justin Harrington. Those guys have to play well no matter what. If he's in the slot, if he's at the X, the 2, the 3, the Y, doesn't matter. You've got to have somebody on him that can cover him in space because he's fast. He's thicker than people realize how thick he is too. He's a big dude. He will be able to break tackles. So you just got to be physical with him. Go ahead.
Now, what I was about to say was, I think, look, this is, and I don't know how many conclusions we will be able to draw after this SMU game, but I do think this game is going to be able to give us an early read on whether the secondary has turned the corner, because we've been waiting on that unit to turn the corner year after year, Brandon. And there's been, at times, it has seemed like there was the firepower, there was the depth, there was the talent in that secondary for that group to turn the corner, and it just hasn't happened yet. And they've got as good a chance as ever in 2023 to make the requisite progress in that regard. Couple of super chats here. Jacob Matthews says only one key to the game, get Gavin Freeman the ball. Taylor wants to know, how much more is the new content going to cost me? LOL. Not a dime, Taylor. Listen, we're not hustlers. We're not trying to get you to pay more for this, pay more for that. No,
Speak
look,
for yourself.
what we what we ask of you is $8 a month for OUinsider.com. And we love those of you that go above and beyond to contribute via the YouTube super chats. We're grateful for all of your contributions. But what we're going to be offering starting tomorrow, in addition to our regular content repertoire, will not cost you a dime, because that's not how we roll. Again, $8 a month gets you OUinsider.com. That's the only money we'll ever ask of you.
Right. Correct. Let's dive into the recruiting. Let's do it. This past weekend, Oklahoma hosted Daniel Akinkumi. He is a 2024 right now. He's a 3-star offensive lineman out of the NFL Academy in London, England. He's going to be a fast riser. The dude's going to end up being, I think, a 4-star at some point in time. You don't know? You don't think so?
No, I don't think he will end up a 4-star simply because he is international. And
there's been plenty of international dudes that have been 4-stars.
Now there have
tight ends, couple tight ends from Germany.
Yes, and most recently there was Theodore Orstrom, that tight end from Germany that ended up going to Texas A&M. He was a 4-star. But the difference to me is that guy showed up at camps.
He did
in America, and he proved, okay, he belonged. Now, Akinkumi certainly looks the part, looks like he belongs. And when you watch the tape, he's got some highly athletic traits. But there's not that much context for how he actually matches up against players of his size and caliber. So I think that will probably cap him in high 3-star territory. Obviously, OU fans will hope I'm wrong on that, and it doesn't change my opinion of the type of player Akinkumi is and can be. There's a reason why he's got the offer list that he does, but I would figure that guy stays cemented in mid to high 3-star territory.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, I think Oklahoma's in a really good spot there. I mean, I don't know what else to say. He really enjoyed his time at Oklahoma. He will be announcing on October 12th. And he hung out with Danny Okoye, the 4-star edge out of Tulsa, Noah homeschool. Both of those guys walked away from Oklahoma's their official visits, making Oklahoma feel very good about their situation with them. That's as much as I'll say, other than the fact, yeah, Oklahoma feels really good. You want to add anything to that?
I would just say, let's rewind 6 months. Consider some of the things we were saying about Danny Okoye's recruitment at the time.
Yeah.
Marvel at how far things have come and tip the cap to Miguel Chavis.
Totally agree. Somebody in the chat has got me enthralled here, trying to ask the top 5 hip hop artists of all time, and I'm sitting here racking my brain over it. Obviously, I'm a hip hop guy, so rap. Do you listen to any rap?
Not a ton, I'll be honest with you. It's not really my vibe.
Yeah, I know.
I'll partake occasionally, but
yeah. I mean, I'll say it out loud real quick. It's Nas, Eminem, Jay-Z, Drake, and probably number 5 would be Pac. And I put Tupac and Biggie kind of in the same realm. So there you go. Yeah, NF's good too. Boomer 129. I listen to mostly music like you, Parker. More of a kind of laid back, alternative, kind of vibey music. But I do love me some hip hop, especially old school hip hop. All right. People are asking about Terry Bussey. Terry Bussey. The top 50 overall wide receiver out of Timpson, Texas, in East Texas. He came up again for unofficial visit this weekend. He has an official to Alabama, excuse me. And then the week after that, I think he's off. He may visit either Texas or Texas A&M. My money's going to be on A&M right now. And then I think LSU gets the final visit before he announces his intentions on September 28th. If I'm an Oklahoma fan, I don't hold my breath. I don't get excited about all this. That said, Taylor Tatum, Michael Hawkins, and an assortment of other guys, in particular, David Stone, all those guys are trying very, very hard to get Terry Bussey to Norman. How crazy would that be to have a 6 wide receiver? And if that is the case, does Oklahoma cut bait with one of them?
No. I think the question is not does Oklahoma cut bait with one of them, but does one of them cut bait with Oklahoma? Because naturally, if you're looking around, you're like, okay, there are 5 other guys at my position in this class. Do I want to go somewhere where there's more of an opportunity for me to shine? That's an understandable frame of mind for a young man to be in at that point. So I'm not going to throw darts and try to peg who it would be, but I don't question that if Oklahoma ends up with 6 receivers in the same class, they're probably going to be at least 1 or 2 that start to reevaluate things. Now, this much I will say, if there is a guy out there that can keep 6 wide receivers committed, it's Emmett Jones, right? But
yeah,
it's almost too much of a good thing at that point. So, yeah, I don't foresee them getting 6 wide receivers in the class one way or another. If Bussey does come along, I think you lose one. I think it's only natural that you lose one. I could see schools closer to home starting to make a big play for a guy like Zion Raggins or Dozie Ezukama, for instance. The second you take a 6th wide out, other schools are going to be circling back around with some of your commits and saying, hey, do you really want to go be another fish in the pond over there? You want to come be a star here? So that will be a negative recruiting tactic that other schools use. So as I see it, I think 5 is the max. I think the 5 you have in the class are really, really good. Like the lowest ranked of those 5 is Dozie Ezukama. And that guy's probably going to get to Oklahoma and drastically outperform his recruiting ranking. I think no surprise Zion Kearney, excuse me. I always do that because there's a town in Nebraska called Kearney, spelled the same way. But I think Zion Kearney is going to be the best of the bunch. All those guys, though, have a very high ceiling once they get to Oklahoma and get the opportunity to learn under Emmett Jones. By the way, I'm trying to find the words to phrase this, but how much of Emmett Jones' influence do you think we saw in week 1? Because you've heard receivers all across the board, any receiver we've gotten the chance to talk to in post-practice media availabilities, they've talked about how Emmett Jones has helped the technical aspects of their game, help them cut quicker, see the field better, run routes more precisely, attack the ball in the air more effectively. When you think about some of the plays that were made on Saturday, again, with the caveat that it was Arkansas State, you think and I think most specifically about Jaden Gibson's 2 catches. You feel like there's some Emmett Jones influence already evident in the way that these wide receivers are playing?
100%. 100%. And it's not to say anything against, Coach Washington last year. He was kind of put in a very precarious situation. Obviously, he was learning on the job after, being underneath Kel Gundy and then, just kind of being thrown into the wolves, right? Like that's a tough situation to be thrown into. And he's a really good Coach Washington, was a really good people person. He was really good with his players from everything that I've heard and been told. And, I you don't want to sit there and say that it was his fault that, there were drops, or this or that. I think that has more of a mindset, but I think the toughness that a coach instills in their players, particularly like a Jaden Gibson. I mean, a guy that went from clamming up when there was a crowd, huge crowd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had several drops, even in the spring game, several drops, right? Had big drops last year in bad timing situation, 4th and 8, TCU. He catches that ball when Dylan Gabriel rolls to his left. He catches that pass. He walks into the end zone. Totally different ball game at that point. And, he just the lack of concentration. And I think that goes with toughness. I think that goes with not letting the moment overtake you. And I think that's where you're starting to see Coach Jones really, really, show his teeth right now is these players they're not afraid to make the big play, the 50-50 catch. They go up and they get after it. They're not going to be out physicaled. None of that. And I think that also goes into, I think Coach Jones is a byproduct and has been lucky in the sense that he came in year 2, right? So the culture, which was being established in year 1, which a lot of bumps in the road for that, right? Like it just kept being drop after drop after drop that just cost OU football games. Like you look back at all those drops, OU should have been 10-2 at the end of the year. A few catches here, a few catches there. They're 10-2 without the drop passes. Am I wrong?
I I don't know if I want to say yes. I don't want to say I don't know if I want to say no, but there's a lot of truth in what you're saying.
How many points were off drop? Did they give up off drop passes that would have walked in the end zone last year?
Quite
We've
a
done
few.
this before.
Quite a few.
It was near 70. So the odds are you're winning more ball games unless your defense completely, which granted, last year's defense could have collapsed at any time. We witnessed it. But the odds are okay. They're at least 8-4, right? 9-3, something to that without those drop passes. And it's just they're different. The players seem different. There isn't a marquee name like Marvin Mims out there, right? There isn't. And yet everybody's making big plays when called upon. And yeah, it's Arkansas State. But those drops happened at the beginning of the year last year. Like they still happened at the beginning of last year. And the fact that they're not happening, I think speaks volumes for Coach Emmett Jones, right? Like I think it shows you what the wide receiver unit, even if it's not as talented as previous years, can do when it's coached well. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the recruiting at the same time, I think is going to show because of it as well. Imagine if he can ever get a recruiting class that is, and he's doing it obviously, but just imagine that recruiting class comes in, changes that. Now you're starting to get the 2020 wide receivers, 2021, 2019, like that type of talent, particularly 2018, you get that type of talent with good coaching. We've seen it happen before with Simmons and Gundy. You can create some really, really big time plays for the offense if your wide receiver unit's coached well.
Super chats.
Yep, go for it.
Greg Johnson says $1 billion development for basketball and Gaylord Memorial expansion needs to happen. Well,
100%. Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that, Craig. Durantula wants to know, is Wyatt Gilmore currently on Flip Watch? That would be the first I've heard of it if that's the case.
Yeah, I haven't, but I also haven't been paying much attention to his recruitment, to be honest. I can do some digging after we get off here.
If there is anything, please let us know in the chat, Durantula. If there is anything that you have heard and or seen that would suggest that, please let us know. But I have neither seen nor heard anything that would suggest that.
Yeah, I haven't either. I don't know. Is there another super chat or no?
That is all for the super chats, as far as I can tell.
Well, there is a decision that is taking place this weekend or this Friday,
Yes.
right?
Yes, there is. It's funny. I was having this conversation on the radio earlier today, and I was pointing out the fact that there are so many fans. I've seen this post over and over on message boards where, fans somewhat understandably have been going, man, when are we going to get an elite defensive line recruitment that isn't just packed with drama start to finish? I'm going, well, you've had one. You've just taken him for granted. And that, of course, is in reference to Nigel Smith, who's going to be announcing his commitment on September 8th. That would be this Friday before Melissa's home game against Royce City, the second game ever at Kenny Deal Stadium, Melissa's beautiful new stadium, and also senior night. So that is when Nigel has long wanted to make his announcement. That is when he will make his announcement. And there has never been any smoke and there have never been any mirrors here, Brandon.
Mhm.
This is as straightforward as it gets. And the full expectation is that that kid's going to be a Sooner Friday night.
Yeah. No, I will be there. Um, I, I'm hearing right now that the plan is for Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis to potentially both be there. Now, Todd Bates was supposed to also be at Dominic McKinley's last week, and obviously that changed the commitment and all that type of stuff. We'll see how that plays out, but there's some buzz that they will be in attendance at that game. How that plays out, we'll have you updated on ouinsider.com. It's still a really big get, and for a variety of reasons. Another top, what is he ranked? He's ranked 82nd overall. He's a top 100 guy on Rivals. He's one of the best, I guess, and most versatile guys. Him and David Stone are a lot alike. They can line up at the 4-eye, the 5, and they can also slide in. And they're big dudes. Like, he's 6'5", 270. He's going to weigh 290, 300 like that when he gets to Norman and starts getting into Coach Smitty's strength and conditioning class. That's a fact. Um, yeah, I, I have to sit here and tell you that if you get him, and let's say you land, um, let's say you land a Koye, and you've got a Koye, Jaden Jackson, David Stone, and Nigel Smith, and Wyatt Gilmore. That is a stellar class. And then you put all your eggs into the opportunity to try to flip, Zena Mosley, which probably not going to happen. He's going to play with his brother. So you know that. So now you put all your eggs into the Dominic McKinley and Williams Nwaneri baskets and really try to focus in on those two as much as you possibly can. Here's the thing. Does Dominic McKinley and Williams Nwaneri make a trip to Oklahoma before the season's over?
Nwaneri, yes. I believe he will visit Oklahoma by season's end. McKinley, I don't know, man. Like, that's also just that situation by nature is going to be a lot tougher to gauge than the Nwaneri deal. Is it out of the realm of possibility that McKinley visits? No, I would very much advise OU fans to take the cautious approach with that flip, because you can almost liken it to Peyton Bowen and DJ Hicks last year. It is reasonable to expect that the Nwaneri recruitment gets very juicy once again at some point in the process. Could that happen with McKinley? It could, same as it happened with Hicks, but should you necessarily expect that you'll get him back on campus or that the outcome will change between now and National Signing Day? I don't think so. Not for my money.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's talk some Grant Bricks. Go ahead.
I
You had a
man,
note
like,
up today. Let's go.
well, I'll be honest that the general feeling from the OU side of things is, man, what is this kid waiting on? Because as I've mentioned on this stream, on the podcast, on OUinsider.com, time and again, is Bricks sees Oklahoma as the best opportunity from a football perspective for him. And I guess here's the best way I can sum it up. If Oklahoma is 2 hours away from Logan, Iowa, I think that kid's committed to Oklahoma long ago. But as it is, it's 7 hours away. It's a small town kid who's lived in a bubble pretty much his whole life. And his world, much like his town, is small because it doesn't extend far outside his town. So and this is nothing new. It shouldn't surprise anybody to hear that this is the case, but distance is the main inhibitor for Bricks as far as Oklahoma is concerned. That is a battle between OU and Nebraska right now. It's been that way the last couple weeks. Now, what you are hoping for as an OU fan is that there is no doubt here over the next few weeks which program is going to be better prepared for the future than the other. Because if Oklahoma takes care of business against SMU this weekend and Colorado takes Nebraska behind the woodshed, which is very much within the realm of possibility, you have Oklahoma at 2-0, Nebraska at 0-2. I've mentioned it again several times before, but Bricks' main holdup with Nebraska is, okay, yeah, proximity is in the Huskers' favor, but is the Matt Rule era going to be different from the Mike Riley era, the Scott Frost era, the Bill Callahan era, the latter stages of the Bo Pelini era? Right? Like, is Nebraska actually going to win under Matt Rule? If you start out cold, you start out 0-2 in the 2023 season, you're not really doing much to alleviate those concerns. And so I think at that point, it becomes clear that Oklahoma is the spot for Bricks, at least if this decision is made with the head and not the heart. But I would just caution everybody, like, this decision is one that just as likely could be made with the heart as with the head. And the heart for that kid is closer to home. And I said this last week on the stream, that there seems to be some tension there between what he knows is best for him from a football standpoint and what he is comfortable with personally. And that comfort level at Oklahoma has come along gradually. There seems to be some hump that hasn't been cleared yet. I still think Oklahoma ends up with his commitment. By hook or by crook, I think they get Grant Bricks. When it happens,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how long this takes. But it's OU or Nebraska, and I think what leaves you feeling good if you're a Sooner fan is the knowledge that, and you don't have to look far beyond the schedules to get this sense, the knowledge that there's going to be a very apparent discrepancy between the state of your program and the state of Nebraska's program based on how the 2023 season plays out.
Yeah. Do you think he'll visit Oklahoma?
So I know he has told Oklahoma he intends to visit later this fall. Whether that happens or not, obviously remains to be seen. But I know the plan is for him to take another visit to Oklahoma.
Does he visit Nebraska? Do you think he'll be in Nebraska this weekend?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And what I do know is that, like, he's kind of quieted down on both the Oklahoma commits and the Nebraska commits, both of whom have been heavily involved in his process. The OU commits have been trying to talk him into OU, and the Nebraska commits have been trying to talk him into Nebraska. And it's kind of been a all hands on deck effort on both sides. But he's kind of removed himself from those respective echo chambers and is obviously still communicating with the coaching staffs, but things have gone a lot quieter there. So Uh, if I get a sense of whether he's going to visit Nebraska this weekend or not, obviously the members at OUinsider.com will be the first to know. But again, man, like there's just, if we're looking at this through the lens of football and long-term development and the opportunity to compete for championships, it's very clear, right, that Oklahoma offers more in that department than Nebraska. If the kid goes to Nebraska, proximity is going to be largely the reason why.
Okay. Fair enough. I guess Boganowski. I talked to his dad. We're talking about 2024 4-star safety Michael Boganowski. I talked to his dad for about 45 minutes the other day, and it seems as if a decision's coming down the pipe.
But how
But
many times have we said that before,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
And it was funny. I was talking to a good source on the Oklahoma end and remarking on the theory that we have presented on this live and elsewhere that, like the longer this drags out,
Mhm.
naturally you would think the better it looks for Kansas State. And that source says, no, I don't know if I would agree with that. Because the way I see it, Kansas State's the easy choice. Why wouldn't he have already committed to Kansas State? And I think it's, another another source had mentioned that, look, and he was obviously at Oklahoma this past weekend for the opener, first time to Oklahoma for a game day. And that source said, look, it's his 8th trip to campus, his 8th trip to Oklahoma, and nobody's ever had to beg him to show up. So what does it say when you've taken that many visits to a school that's 4 hours away? It's understandable, right? When you
Right.
paid that many visits to a school that's 15 minutes up the road, like Kansas State. But when you're taking all that time and money and effort and investing it into visits to Oklahoma, now that would suggest that, and I don't know if it necessarily suggests that Oklahoma is the spot, but it definitely suggests that that's a school you're going to have a hard time saying no to.
Yeah. No, to me, and I get where that source is coming from, and I know that person's train of thought. The problem is I still see Kansas State as Oklahoma in the Peyton Bowen situation with Boganowski.
Huh.
You see what I'm saying? I know he's not committed anywhere, but the the comfortability, the fans, the family, the friends, K-State, 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 just like Peyton Bowen, it was Oklahoma, Oklahoma, Oklahoma. Therefore, it it seems, now I will say this, the difference is that the other two teams for Peyton Bowen were 12 and 14-hour drives or 20-hour drives or something like that. 12 and
Yeah.
20-hour drives. Okay. Completely different scenario, whereas it's a 4-hour drive from Junction City to Norman, Oklahoma. So it's not that crazy, but he does have a 10-year-old little brother that plays football that his dad coaches on. He does have another brother that's going to be in high school. So logistically, K-State makes way more sense than Oklahoma if you want your parents able to be at every one of your games. And that's something you value very much. That said, do you value playing against the best of the best? Do you value being groomed and coached up by a staff that's developed, I don't know, hundreds of NFL guys over the last 20 years? And nobody's going to sit here and say that, Kleiman and obviously Coach Standard, obviously they've developed NFL guys, but are they at the level of the Oklahoma staff? BV and his staff, whether at Oklahoma or Clemson, have developed elite guys at the NFL level. Can that be said by K-State? I mean, when was the last big time defensive back? Was it Terrence Newman? Like 18 years ago?
Well,
Like, who was the
if
last big
if you're
name?
talking about guys that have made it in the NFL, that's a
No,
different
just
conversation.
no,
But
I'm talking about defense.
yeah, but if we're talking about like draft picks, for instance, Julius Brents was a guy that just got drafted this past year.
Right.
Echo Boydo got drafted as well. So
Okay, I'm talking first 3 or 4 rounds.
I think both those guys were off the board within the first 4 rounds.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Um,
But we're still talking quantity is what I'm going after here.
sure. Yeah,
Like,
and I get that. By the way, I I imagine Mike Sr. will probably be watching.
oh yeah,
this.
he'll listen to this.
He
Yeah,
usually is. So I just
what's
want
up,
to give
man?
a very public acknowledgement of thanks to Mike Sr. for the hospitality last week in Junction City. That dude can cook a mean bison burger. I had 2 of them. They were delicious.
Yeah, and he's also one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. He's in the military, he's an everyman. That's how I would describe him. He is an everyman. He can relate to anybody and everybody, and that's what makes him great to talk to. So shout out to you, my friend. Yeah, let's do it, man. Who does OU close the class out with? Before we get off here, who do they close class out with?
Who do they close it out with? Okay, let's play this out. I think they get Nigel Smith. Obviously, I think they get Okoye and Akinkunmi. I think they get Grant Bricks. I think they get Devin Jordan. I think they get Michael Boganowski. And no, I'm not going to say what everybody wants me to say. I'm not going to say it because then I know it's just going to.
Oh, it'll get to Missouri. It'll get to Missouri.
For many reasons, I'm going to refrain from saying what everybody wants me to say right now. How about this? I'll just, for the sake of pleasing everyone, and also because there is a good degree of confidence that this happens in the end. So I'm okay making this soft prediction. I bet you Oklahoma gets Eddie Pierre-Louis right now.
Oh, you tease. I thought you were going where, come on, man. Come on. I thought you were going with the dude up there in Kansas City.
Yeah, no, the confidence is increasing on the Oklahoma end with Big Eddie from down in Tampa. And I mentioned it in a note earlier on OUinsider.com, but it just kind of feels like the UCF momentum that was there in late June, early July has flatlined. Not to say that and I have disappeared. Man, well, first time in a while.
Does that equate to what was it that you said? Does that equate to dead in the water? Momentum's dead in the water?
Yeah, no, and I don't trust me. I don't want people to take that away again. It's not as if UCF is out of the picture here. No, they're very much in it, and proximity has a lot to do with that, as well as the fact that is a school that has taken advantage of their newfound Power 5 status and recruited well around that pitch. But I think there's a lot of reasons to choose Oklahoma if you're in Eddie's shoes. More reasons to choose Oklahoma than UCF. And also the commits have been working that one hard, especially Michael Hawkins.
Yeah. Okay. So you said Akinkunmi, Okoye, Bricks. Who else did you say? You said Boganowski. Who else? So those 4. Is that all you said? Was those 4 to close out?
No, I said they get Devin Jordan.
Oh yeah, Devin Jordan.
Okay, yeah, so I had Nigel, Akinkunmi, Okoye, Bricks, Boganowski, Devin Jordan, and Eddie. So 7.
7. How about this? I have no confidence in this. I'm just going to be out on a limb.
Oh, that's encouraging to hear.
No, I'm going to throw hey, do not take this to the bank. I want to rephrase. Do not take this to the bank. There's something about Jordan Seaton that has me super intrigued.
Really?
With Oklahoma. He has done nothing but talk Oklahoma up to numerous people. Not just myself. One, anytime a dude continually responds to me when I reach out to him, that's always a good sign. If they know I cover Oklahoma. When he sees me, he comes over at any IMG event, comes over and gives me, the bro hug and how you doing and everything like that. Like, he comes up to me, and that's a good sign. And then when I talked to, Adam Freeman, who was there, and he knows him well, he's like, dude, he's talking up Oklahoma a lot. Now, I think South Carolina is going to be really hard to beat. 100%. Having said that, much like Eddie Pierre-Louis, who David Stone is super, super close to both those guys. Super close. Stone will tell you he goes to Eddie Pierre-Louis's house on several occasions and has been. They're very good friends. And so, much like Eddie Pierre-Louis, Jordan Seaton, this is the crazy part. At the IMG Media Day, and even after the game that David Stone announces, he says the same thing to me both times. David Stone and Jaden Jackson have been pushing me very hard to Oklahoma. They want me to go with them very, very, very badly. And so if he's going to take an official visit to Oklahoma on September 30th, there's a part of me, particularly if what I'm told comes to fruition, and that is that Jaden Jackson, and this came from Jordan himself. He said Jaden and David are supposed to come up with him. Now, if that takes place, I mean, can you write Oklahoma off at that point?
No, I don't think you can write them off.
Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to say this, okay? I'm going to say the Oklahoma's going to land Okoye, Danny Okoye, 4-star edge out of Tulsa. Daniel Akinkumi, 3-star offensive lineman out of NFL Factory in London. Nigel Smith, top 100, number 82 overall player in the country, one of the top D linemen in the country from Alyssa, Texas. Devon Jordan from Tulsa Union, the 4-star cornerback, number 4. Michael Boganowski, the 4-star safety out of Junction City, Kansas, number 5. Grant Bricks, the 4-star, potential 5-star offensive lineman out of Iowa. Eddie Pierre-Louis, even though I'm not confident in that either, but I do think Oklahoma has I think Oklahoma has a slight edge, is how I would say it right now. Like just a very slight edge on UCF. Because essentially, I was told that UCF was given I don't want to say a silent commit. They were kind of told back this summer that expect him to sign with them.
Yeah.
But that's changed. He took other visits and everything changed after that. And if I was going to say, if Oklahoma takes one extra guy that isn't on the defensive side of the ball, everybody's like, oh, it's got to be Terry Bussey. No. I think the surprise, if there's going to be a surprise commitment from anybody, it's going to be Jordan Seaton. Surprise. If there's going to be a surprise, I'm going to say Jordan Seaton. I think Oklahoma quietly has a better chance than people give credit for. Remember, there was a time when people thought Oklahoma was like right there near the top. Back about, 6-7 months ago? And then it just
long ago.
Yeah, it was like maybe 9 months ago. And it just like died off. Like everything died off. And that's when I went to the media day, IMG Media Day. I said, what happened to you in Oklahoma? He goes, what are you talking about? I'm visiting there in September. I was like, what? He goes, oh, yeah, I talk to Coach Beanbo every day. Okay. Like just kind of blew my mind a little bit. And from that point on, things have seemed to start moving. Even like the momentum seems to be getting stronger and stronger for Oklahoma. Now, South Carolina, Beamer being the fact that he's DMV all the way, and they have like just stranglehold on DMV guys. That's what made Oklahoma so good in the DMV when he was here. He's going to make it very hard for Oklahoma to beat South Carolina out. But I still think that Oklahoma has a shot. So if there's going to be a surprise, it's going to be Jordan Seaton. And I'm not throwing Williams Winery or Dominic McKinley flip as a surprise because I don't think Oklahoma fans expect it, but I don't think they would be shocked if that happened. Does that make sense? So I don't that they don't need to even be in this equation. All right. Yeah, if you're not a member of OUinsider.com, here's what I want you all to do. I want you all to I'm going to put a tweet out tonight. And if you are watching this right now, put a tweet out. I'm going to put a tweet out. And I'm going to say, if you were on the YouTube live, comment. If you want to be a member of OUinsider.com, give me a few days. And I'm going to try to get back to you all with a response to help that happen. Okay? This is us trying to help you. Obviously, you can go sign up right now. It's $9.95. And this is only like this offer right here that I'm doing. It ends literally, what is tomorrow? The 6th of September, correct?
Yes.
It ends like at 3 p.m. If you don't comment by 3 or 4 p.m., by 4 p.m., we'll go 5 p.m. 5 p.m. on September 6th. I will not, it won't count. But whoa, Michael Hangzinger, my man. We make playoff. He's making his prediction. We make the playoff and finish with a few surprise recruits and a top 3 class. Ollipop for everyone. Sign up OU Insider. Invest in yourself. Boomer. There it is with a hundo. By the way, tomorrow is the 7th.
Great way to invest in yourself.
Yeah, and guess what?
Drink Ollipop as opposed to regular soda, and subscribe to OUinsider.com for the most up-to-date information on all things OU football and recruiting. Yeah, hey, look, Big Lou, thank you for reminding me. If you're on OUinsider.com, we will have given away 15 as of tomorrow. We will have given away 15 members will have won a total of 30 tickets in the first 2 weeks of the season. It's crazy, man. We do giveaways. We try to show our appreciation to you guys at OU Insider. And if you win and you don't want to go to the game or you can, I'll try to help you out. All you got to do is private message me, right? Don't comment. Don't do anything because I'm not going to see your comments. If you private message me or start a thread, if you private message me, I will get back to you very, very quickly. And what I'll do is I'll probably extend your membership to try to accommodate for, not going to the game. So I'll probably add 6 months or something to that extent to your membership. But you gotta message me. Okay. Cause that's the only way I'll usually see it. I know several people have made comments or something like that. And then they message me and like, well, I commented. And I'm like, dude, I don't see 90% of the comments because we have 1,000 notifications. Every time we type something up, every time you guys make a comment, it gets buried by other people's comments. So we can't see. Yeah. Sign up to OUinsider.com. It's $9.95 right now. And it's or $99.95. I'm going to put that link. I'm going to put that tweet out. It's just going to be a generic GIF. If you are on OU Insider YouTube Live and you're not a member and you sign up, what you do is you need to go sign up right now, free. Sign up for free and then make that comment. If you comment, tomorrow will be the 7th of September. If you comment by 5 p.m. on the 7th, I will get in there and I will make sure you get 30 days free of OU Insider. I'll give you the promo code. It'll be in the next day or so, but I'll get back to you. I'll DM you on Twitter and I'll give you the promo code and you can go from there and you can sign up. Okay. I hope that helps you guys. Sign up,
Subscribe to OU Insider YouTube right now. Go to the podcast, give us 5 stars, give us a good review. That helps us in the analytics. It helps us make sure you guys know, or that we know that you like what we're doing, all that type of stuff. All right. For Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe, my name is Brandon Drum. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, powered by Ollipop. You guys have a blessed day.